So my name is Steve Blane. I'm the managing partner with the Darn Clever Design Collective. We're a digital learning agency here in Toronto. My side hustle is I'm the program director for the I4PL certificate programs.
Cool. Thank you, Steve, for joining us today. Now, wanted to just kind of have your thoughts on what's going on with the world of learning and performance in the last 3.5 weeks when the world just kind of crashed all over everybody.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting time. My LinkedIn feed is just flooded with how to run virtual meetings, how to run virtual classroom, how to run virtual. And I think there's lots of great tips there, but I think there's going to be some people that the real learning is going to happen when they jump on and run a session for the first time. I always flash back to, I think it was 1999 when I ran a session on placeware, which has like been so many different things, but it was with Xerox and it was one of their products at the first time. And I rely a lot on humor. And I told that first joke and then there was that reaction. It was just blank. And it changed my whole way of facilitating that session. I bombed because I was looking for that audience response. So I think there's going to be a lot of people that are doing things virtually that are going to be disappointed with the results initially. So I think people have to really stop and really start to triage what they're doing and going, is this something we need to be doing in the next 3 months? Or is it something that we can put off to, we keep talking about the fall, but internally in an organization, it could be the summer. I think there's going to be a yo-yo effect. Everyone's going to go virtual and then they're going to snap back. I'm a huge fan of digital, whatever it might be, but it's always like anything in moderation and using the right means for the right time. If you take the macro effect, we've been going digital in the industry for a long time. This has just accelerated it for a lot of people. And I love the fact, if you take it from the learning and development to the performance support, I love the way that people are using technologies like Zoom and Teams now, where they're communicating with people in different ways than they were before. I'd love to see how. Well, actually, I say this as a parent that has 2 kids that interrupt my productivity at home. But for the average worker, what their productivity levels are going to be during this working at home versus what they were in the office.
Right. Has your work changed from the time we moved into being at home?
Yeah, well, and it's my joke is I've been a virtual. Since we set up Darn Clever, we've been a virtual firm. So that's been about 18 months. And so my joke is I've been self-isolating Monday to Friday for the last 18 months. Now I just have to figure out how to do it with 3 other people in the house. So in terms of the way we work, it hasn't really impacted us that much. I did have early on before the shutdown, I was supposed to go to BC and that got changed. And we were going out to run a full day design scrum, like a design session all day, and we ended up having the trip canceled, thankfully, and we did it via Zoom, and I was shocked at how well it worked. And I was like, oh, going forward, can we do more of these, maybe a shorter duration, because I was kind of bagged by the end of the 8 hours.
Right.
But can we have that shorter duration more often and really open up the virtual aspect? And I think that's going to be the biggest learning or support coming out of this, is people realize how often we can do this kind of meeting versus, the going to BC for 8 hours travel time and thousands of dollars of expense versus doing it virtually with no impact. I think from my standpoint, the way that this has impacted me is, there's no more travel. I was supposed to travel, I think it was 5 cities in 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And that all got canceled, which ended up being great because I had a lot of time on my hands for the first month. Now it's, it's getting back to normal for us because I often go see a client at the beginning of an engagement, and then for the rest of it, it's virtual. Right. And so while I haven't started any new projects, we've continued working virtually.
Right. Now, I seem to have heard you say that there will be a bit of a change, definitely, for how leaders will be managing teams. Some might go back, some will continue to be online, and there'll be some form of a hybrid in the middle. So, with that anticipated change, whatever that change will be for that organization, what should leaders do now, especially HR training leaders, so that then they're prepared for what's going to happen in their organizations the next couple of months?
In the next couple of months, that's
When
a
we
great
all
question.
go back to normal, in my
When we go back to normal, whatever that new normal is,
yes,
putting on my real consultant hat, I'll answer with a different answer to the question that was asked. And my big thing is wondering what commercial real estate is going to look like as these leases come up, and places that had 100 desks for 100 people go, maybe we only need 25. And I think that's for leaders. I hope they're looking at, okay, how much of this can we take in the future? How much can we alleviate forcing people to have an hour commute each way? I look at it, when I started working at home and losing about an hour and a half commute in total, that was an extra hour and a half of my day that I reclaimed. Now, some days I use that for work and some days I didn't. So I think for leaders as they're going forward is really embrace the working from home and the productivity. I think one of the greatest quotes I've ever seen for working from home is, if you can't trust your employees to work from home, then you can't trust them. There's always the joke of well, are you working from home or are you working from home? I'm astounded when I spend time in corporate offices to see how little people actually work when they're in the office. And I think it's about giving people the options of working from home, working in the office. And I personally believe the perfect setup is a split. A couple days a week in the office, a couple days at home. And work it out that way, because there is a certain advantage to having FaceTime with people.
Right. Now, if we switched a little bit to the technologies that you mentioned a while ago, because there will be MS Teams, there will be Zoom, all of these. What do you think would be a preferred one, or is there a preferred one, especially for learning? I mean, are there preferred tools or technologies that we should prepare already to be ready for all of that?
Yeah, I think the technologies that we have and the platforms we have are almost like everything in the world. I want to take a little bit from here, I want to take a little bit from there, and cobble together this perfect platform. I'm a huge fan of Teams. We use it for all of our internal communications, but we use Zoom for external, just because it's more reliable that way. But if you're training internally, there's so many features that you can use in Teams, from their whiteboards to the integration with OneNote and integration with Office that makes it very powerful. We like Zoom. I'm running the Designing Learning Experiences course as part of my shameless plug for the I4PL certificates that you can visit at
I'm in there too.
at i4plcertificates.ca. And we're using Zoom as the communication tool, but a lot of the work is going to take place in a platform called Miro, which is an excellent online communication or collaboration tool. It's a whiteboard. Everyone can go in, they can download files from there, they can mark up the whiteboard. When we break into groups, people are going to break into different parts of the whiteboard versus going off into the unknown in the Zoom breakouts.
Yes.
And when we were trying to decide whether or not to use it, we said, well, group one could wander over and cheat off group two. And we're like, okay, well, what's the downside of that? The downside is
that's what we do anyway.
That's what we do anyway. We're in the classroom, right? You look over at the flip charts that are going on. And then we looked at it and we're like, okay, so if group one goes over and looks at group twos and they go, oh, they had this great idea, but what if I took that idea and I did this? That's how we learn is, we see things and we improve on them. So I think Miro and those collaboration tools are hugely powerful. Miro is starting to add the video communication and everything like that. But I think from a stability standpoint, you can't beat Zoom right now.
Right. Everybody wants to be a collaboration tool, and everybody will turn into an LMS.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Hopefully not.
It's like MS Teams is going to be an LMS one of these days. Let me tell you. It's my prediction.
Why not?
I know, right? And then everybody would be like, I'm back in Microsoft. So...
Well, yeah, and I mean, and if they had a little bit of AI that was in there, that they could track what we were talking about, and a link that was shared, and using some of the technology from Degreed and the other LXPs, that I can get credit for clicking on a link that you send me and it's a relevant article, and then starting to use that data to go, oh, hey, Robin shared that link with Steve shared it with Mary shared it with Claire. Well, let's start to look at, is that something we should be sharing out organization wide?
Oh, great. Now we have to build it. See, you and I have a project.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm actually a good kind of, for people who are thrust into this environment and knowing that their lives are going to change, especially training like facilitators, instructional designers who were not ready for this. What is it that they need to do to be ready for it in the next 3 to 6 months, that we're going to get into the new normal?
Well, I think there's if I put my sales hat on right now, it's getting ready for digital, whether that's live facilitation and learning how to be an effective virtual facilitator, or getting the skills to at least understand what it means to design for digital training, understanding what the technologies are, what is responsive design versus slide based, when to use storyline, when to use articulate, when to use Rise, when to use insert the other platform here, and be able to have those conversations, understand what an LMS means, and what the advantages are and what the disadvantages are. And I think it's increasing that digital literacy. You don't have to go out and learn how to code. You don't even necessarily have to learn how to use easy to use tools like Rise, but understand how they work, what's capable of them, so you can at least design for them and recognize when a platform like that is right to use versus no, let's stop, that e-learning is not the right approach. Because there's lots of benefits to e-learning, there's lots of drawbacks, and so often we get forced to use e-learning for compliance, and that's really the check the box e-learning, where there's not a whole lot of learning that's going on. And then there's other stuff that we have where we're forced to use e-learning, and it just doesn't work because you don't get to the right level of practice. And if people aren't practicing, then I kind of look at it as, why are we doing this? And oftentimes it's because we have budget to do it, and which is the wrong reason to do it, but it helps keep the lights on. And I was in a discussion on LinkedIn the other day, and someone was like, so you mean to tell me if someone came to you and said, we want a 20-minute e-learning course on this, and you think it should be a one-page PDF, that you would suggest the one-page PDF? I was like, for sure. I was like, do you know how many times I've actually done that? And it's funny, no one wants the one-page PDF because it's not exciting enough, but that's oftentimes what they actually need.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time, and appreciate it. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me, Robin.